Hey guys, this is Geoff Ulrich, or Wave Goodbyes. I'm known on DraftKings, and I'm going to be reviewing my Millionaire Maker lineup from this last weekend on DraftKings. That was able to score 28th in the overall standings of the Millionaire Maker tournament. I'm also going to be reviewing Brett Marino's lineup, the winner of the Millionaire Maker tournament. Brett was a single entry player, won his way into the tournament with a $5 satellite on DraftKings, and I'm going to be reviewing and deconstructing these lineups and seeing what made them both successful, and most importantly, seeing what was able to win Brett $1 million this last weekend playing fantasy golf on DraftKings. What you're seeing on screen right now is my lineup that ended up finishing 28th. For my own personal lineups, I usually like to start with a stud player or a high price player that I like to build my rosters around. So in this case, obviously Jordan Spieth was the main stud that I used to build my roster around. Obviously, Spieth, played great this weekend, completely blew away the field, and ended up with the highest fantasy point total by a wide margin. And usually when a player like Spieth kind of dominates like that, you're going to see him with a high fantasy point total. So it was a great start for me, obviously, using him in this lineup. The next player, and actually I think the most pivotal player this weekend that I used, and that for most people as well, was Phil Mickelson. Phil was ranked in salary just below 10,000. He was 9,900. And one of the reasons I used Phil is because not only does he have a great history at Augusta, but he gets a lot of birdies and he gets a lot of eagles when he's on. And when he's on, he's really on. And birdies and eagles, those are really good for fantasy scoring. PGA on DraftKings, they give you a little extra bonus, a little bit more scoring, and you don't have to worry so much about if a player is going to, get a few bogeys if they're going to offset it with a lot of birdies like Phil does. So I actually wrote an article on DraftKings Playbook that you can look at under training camp, and I suggest you kind of check it out after, which outlines the importance of how important guys who make a lot of birdies are. So that was my pick with Phil, and the next four guys I used in this lineup were all kind of value picks, and the most important one and the guy who performed the best actually was Russell Henley. Henley only finished the tournament at -3, but he was actually only 6,500 in salary, so he's the cheapest guy on this roster. And you'll actually see that Henley outscored guys who finished above him in the final overall standings. So you have Hunter Mahan finished 9th, Ryan Moore finished 12th, Ian Poulter finished 6th, and Russell Henley actually outscored Mahan and Moore, even though he only finished in 21st in the tournament. And that's because he had two bonuses. He got three birdie streaks, and he had 18 birdies and one eagle for the week, which is huge. So again, as a value pick, you really want to target those guys who can score you a lot of birdies, who can make a lot of low scores, and maybe even get you some bonuses. And for this week, Henley was a really, really key player. My other picks, Mahan, Moore, and Poulter, they were all very solid. Mahan especially I chose because I wanted to fade JB Holmes, who was one of the highest owned players. You'll see Hunter Mahan was only 8% owned. So it allowed me to differentiate my lineup a bit. As far as Moore and Poulter goes, they both played really solid. They didn't quite get me enough points to get me up into the top 10 or the top 5 of the Millionaire Maker. But for their salaries, they're extremely solid plays. So that's my lineup. Now I'm going to take you through the winner, the guy who kind of took it down this week, Brett Marino. He really, really nailed his picks. And first of all, congrats on him on doing that. You see, again, he started with Russell Henley. Again, he was really one of the key value picks this week. And the other two key value picks he also nailed. Charlie Hoffman, only 6,000 in salary, and Kevin Na also only 6,000 in salary. Both those guys finished within the top 12 of the tournament. And really, just because they were so cheap for how many points they were able to produce, that really gave Brett a lot of roster leeway to roster the studs that he ended up doing. So my recommendation is, follow Brett's lead here and always look for those important value picks, because that's really, 50% of the reason why he won this tournament. So the other 50% is that he absolutely nailed his high price players. Phil Mickelson, Justin Rose, Jordan Spieth, the top 3 players in this tournament, the top 3 fantasy scoring players in this tournament as well. And as I already talked about with Phil, he was a great pick. Obviously, scored a lot of birdies over the week. But also, Justin Rose, 3.5% owned. That is the way you want to differentiate yourself in a tournament. Look for those low-owned guys who are going to be able to score those high points, who's going to be able to get you a high placing. Justin Rose, former major winner, great pick there. And then obviously Jordan Spieth. You have to nail the guy who wins the tournament, especially if he's going to win by as much as Jordan Spieth did on the weekend. So as you saw, guys, with Brett's lineup, it was super balanced. All of his guys were able to score above 80 fantasy points. And that's really key. Whenever you're trying to make a successful fantasy golf lineup, you really want that balance. You want 6 solid finishes, and you also want 6 solid value plays. And that was ultimately what would enable Brett to pick the eventual winner, get those lower owned guys, get those high owned guys that finished highly in the tournament as well. So just to end, in case you haven't heard already, DraftKings Millionaire Maker went off really well this weekend. And because of that, due to popular demand, they've already released an even bigger and better version for the US Open, which is going to be taking place on June 18th. There's already satellites up in the lobby. So go check it out after you're done with the video. For all intents and purposes, it should be, an even better tournament. The US Open's a great, great golf tournament. Keep checking back with the playbook until then as well. We're going to have more previews, more fantasy golf tips that you can follow. And yeah, thanks for tuning in, guys.